Hi, I'm Kelvin Mackenzie. This is my colleague in arms, Adam Cherry, and we are the Wright brothers. So, without much publicity, the Refugee Council, our old friends, have just revealed that because the Labour Party, or the Labour government, are dropping both Rwanda and the Tory piece of legislation which said that anybody who arrives in our country illegally will never be granted asylum. The effect of that will be that 62,000 channel migrants will be given the right to stay, and I presume the right to work in our country. I'm unsure about that, but
62,000. I mean, we were talking off air about this. That's the size of what? That's not a small town, is it?
No, it's Margate.
Margate.
It's Cannock.
Yeah.
You know, these are, and this is not just this year.
Yeah.
That's every year for the 5 years that Labour are in power. I am absolutely sure, having seen the way they start and the general way that they run their administration, that they are going to face. They're going to be thrown out in the same massive way they were thrown in. So I'm not worried about that. What does concern me is a couple of things. One, that there seems to be no sense of urgency from Starmer or any of them.
No interest in it.
That migration is a massive problem, right? Wherever it comes from, it's a massive problem. And what they're saying is, look, mate, we'd like to solve it, but it's honestly beyond our pay grade, it's beyond our intellect, and it's beyond what we want to do, because Starmer spends all his time as some kind of average KC talking about the law. And he says, look, we're not going to pass particular laws about this. What we're going to do is we're going to wait for the EU. Well, the EU have made it clear that they are looking. I saw the other day from the boss there saying that she was looking for ways for Europe to come up with creative answers
to migration.
Yeah. So she doesn't know. And of course, the EU, because of the size of it, has turned out to be a nightmare. If this were a whole series of different countries, then each one would be literally having guns firing over the heads of migrants to get them to go somewhere else, right? And there would be problems, but they wouldn't be problems coming up and down your high street. So if the EU can't solve it, we're not going to learn anything from them. So what are we, the British, going to do about it?
Well, yeah, nothing. I mean, so you look during the election campaign, all they said on this really, on illegal migration specifically, was they'll smash the gangs.
Yeah.
Well, fine. What does that actually look like? They don't have any plan for it. I think it might have been actually Nigel Farage who said this. I think this is a reasonable point. He said, that we all talk about smashing the drug gangs, get the drug gangs for years and years. Well, look how that's worked. It's just completely empty rhetoric.
When there's money to be made.
Well, yeah, which as there, of course, there is here in America.
Each one of those boats, there are 50 people on them, and they're paying anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That's between 150 and 200,000 pounds a pop. They take the money in advance, and if everybody drowns, oh well, that's bad luck. But look, I've made 200,000 quid.
Yeah, it's a sign of how unserious they are about this. It took them God knows how long, at least 2 months, to find someone to head their new pointless border security command. No one wanted that job. I think they have to offer him more money than the Prime Minister. They've now finally filled it, but it took them forever to even get someone on the payroll for that.
So my idea has always been one, and of course it caused a tremendous row.
Oh, here we go, right.
Everybody starts shouting. Well, I don't know what's unusual about it. We have the SAS, right? We have the SAS. Why don't we just put them into Belgium or France and just pop a few of them off? Or arrest them on that land and bring them back here.
Right.
Okay? Now,
so these gang leaders, right?
Yeah,
so you're going to send the Apaches in.
Yeah.
They rappel down.
Bang.
Bang.
Yeah. Saying, well, what
right.
Okay, you're an Israeli. Somebody says, well, what should we do? He said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll kill the entire Hezbollah high command. And we will kill the whole Hamas high command. And by the way, we'll send a message to the Iranian I command that I'd sleep with one eye open if I were there, right? If you just say this can't be done,
Yeah.
then we will be having this conversation, me and you, Adam, literally for years. Now, as far as Labour are concerned, they may not care. They may say, well, look, it's 250,000, 300,000 over the 6 years, and we'll be pleased that this has happened to this country.
Oh, well, I mean, that would be a reduction on 700,000 or whatever it was last year.
Yeah.
So they'll take it as a victory.
Right. Well, that's not entirely true, because what happens is we're still bringing in people who we require.
Well, legal migration.
Which is good. Yeah. The only good news about that was watching the universities all go bust, and that cheers me up no end, as it becomes clear that the foreign students are not stupid. They're not paying. That they were only ever coming here, so they bring their relatives here, so they could be illegals. Directly, they had to pay 40,000 a year to be told.
I mean, that was hilarious. The fact that you'd have to pay triple the amount to receive the same thing.
Yeah, to see it's the same education.
Yeah, which is pointless anyway. Yeah. You go here to study.
Complete bloody waste of time. But okay, so I also saw that the Home Office is part of a day of, we've got to tell the truth about this thing, is that they've now told hotel owners, remember, it was only half an hour ago, when Labour came to office, that they were going to stop migrants being in hotels. Now they've said, actually, I'm very sorry about this, guys. We've got more migrants than we thought we had, and therefore we need more.
Who would have seen that coming? Yeah,
more hotel space. And the reason for that, and this was an absolute bloody shocker, right, was that instead of it being dominated by young men from Iraq and India and Pakistan and the like, right, it's now turned into families. And therefore they need more hotel space to accommodate the families. Okay, that means more GPs, more hospitals, more schooling, more this, more that, more than the other. Surely something should alert our government to say this can't carry on. We haven't got that amount of money. We haven't even got enough doctors to deal with the current 67 million in our country. How are we going to accommodate? Why is it that nobody thinks this is important? Nobody thinks this is important. We know that the migration has had a big effect on our country. If you're a Londoner or something like that, you're wandering around, you've probably seen substantial changes. And in some parts of the country, Birmingham, for instance, Blackburn and those kinds of places, you've complete changes. Right, so here's the third aspect, the Refugee Council, right, our old chumps. I spent a lot of time with them. Thanks for everything you're doing for us. Now, they're now saying that people are coming in different forms from just the boats.
So they've figured out, and what is it? What do they do?
They're coming in on the trucks.
Which is what they used to do, isn't it?
They used to do.
Right.
Look, I can understand. But the point about coming in on the trucks is twofold. First of all, surely it's not beyond the wit of man or woman actually to search each truck, or that may be impossible because it causes X, Y, and Z, but it may be a price worth paying. And secondly, if you don't do that, then they are coming to our country and disappearing into the system.
Yeah, you don't know where they've gone. You never find them.
You don't know where they've gone. I presume they've gone to their relatives, wherever they are.
Yeah.
They then operate outside the system. It's all a black market.
Yeah.
And some people may think that's a better thing than actually be registered on the way in. I'm not sure what the answer to that. But if there are as many coming in on the trucks, or say 25% coming in on the trucks, that's another 10,000 a year, 10, 15,000 a year. I mean, forget about Margate. The rate we're going, it'll be the size of bloody Leeds.
Yeah. It's interesting you said maybe Labour don't care about this, or they have no answers to it. Well, their victory, as many have said, was very shallow in the election. Huge, obviously a massive majority.
Yeah.
But Reform coming second in 100 seats in the north, you would think would send alarm bells ringing that actually this is a serious problem. And Reform are coming for their votes in the next election. They're saying so. They're not hiding it. So you would assume if they had any political nous that they would do something about this early. And it doesn't look like they have. I mean, right, fine. They've only been in there 100 days, still managed to screw up quite a lot, but there we are. You know, so it should be at the top of their agenda.
Well, there was a piece in the Times the other day which actually alluded to that point.
Oh, right, yeah.
That this was an issue for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And yet, as far as I know, I read a lot of media, and I have not seen one single alarm bell ring from either Number 10 or the Home Office or anywhere. Yeah. Nobody really seems to matter. Nobody seems to really care about it.
Yeah.
I can't understand why that is. For instance, kind of drifting away into it, on the Badenoch issue, she says, who I think you thought did a good job last night.
Well, yeah, we might talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did the debate last night. It wasn't really a debate. It was one interview and one speech after another. Yeah. Jenrick and Badenoch. She won the room, and again, we'll come to it. Yeah. But she had a very good performance, and the members. So what was interesting about that actually was the audience in the room was entirely made up of Conservative members. So they all had a vote. They all had skin in the game.
Yeah.
So their reaction was telling, and they all seemed to go for Badenoch because she was more natural and more fluent. But anyway, yeah, back to what you were saying.
But the Conservative Party cannot leave the migration issue to be a Farage-only issue.
No, but I'd say both candidates have realised that. Whether they have any credibility on it, that's another issue. But they've recognised they have to do something.
After all, the Tories had 14 years to sort that out.
Yeah, well, Jenrick was the immigration minister, but there we are.
Cameron was absolutely hopeless. I'm so sorry. My family used to use them in the field, kind of thing. You know, I never thought he took any of this seriously. But so look, we've got 62,000 now going to become have the right to stay, and I presume become British citizens in time. And literally nobody cares.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't. And
the public care.
I suppose, yeah, the public care, but the politicians don't really seem to care until something happens, until Germany, you know, suddenly, you know, big chunks of Germany are voting far right, miles beyond reform.
Yeah.
But it goes to show where the beating heart is. The same thing happens in France, right? There's just not enough to form a government, but it's bloody close, you know. Causes immense. It's made Macron, whose only job now is to wander around explaining to the rest of the world how to get things right, because nobody wants to listen to him in his own country. So these are important things, even if they may occasionally become kind of boring. Well, there's not really a solution to it. If we don't do something about it, there will be a solution. It will be imposed on us. You will suddenly wake up one day and there'll be somebody massively of the far right who catches the riptide of people's emotions, and suddenly we have more than a solution. We also have a problem. So, you know, I really do want to see my government. I hate these people, but they are my government. I want them to act in some kind of way. Right. So
should we talk about those people? Should we talk about Labour? Because obviously we've got the budget coming up. Actually, I didn't mention this, right? So I did the cabinet shouts earlier this week. So they had me on Downing Street as they come in for their Tuesday meeting.
Yeah.
I can't. What was I? So I shout. So Louise Haigh, the Transport Minister. So I say, you know, do you regret what you said about P&O Minister? She completely ignores me, goes straight through. Yeah. I shouted at Wes Streeting because he's doing, you know, these Ozempic jabs for unemployed people. Yeah. He was the only one who responded to me. I said, is losing weight the key to getting Britain working again or something? And he laughed and said, not in my case. So he's actually got a good sense of humour about it.
Why? Is he slightly on the porky side?
Well, I wouldn't say so. No. I mean,
he's just.
I think he was. He's quite media savvy. He's got a good sense of humour. But the reason I bring that up is because that was around the time when they were all briefing against each other over the budget. So they write, you know, which newspaper was it? I can't remember where it first emerged. But they were writing directly to the Prime Minister to complain about the Chancellor and all the cuts they're having to make in their budget, which is in just over, I think, 9-10 days' time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
so, I mean, it's in complete chaos. I was speaking to a former Cabinet Minister the other day. He said, well, he would say this, but it's telling, he said, they actually don't know what they're doing. It's complete chaos. You shouldn't have this in your first budget.
Why? Was that a former Labour Cabinet Minister?
No, it was a former Conservative, but someone who, right, of course, you know, you would think that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting anyway because there's supposed to be such unity.
Yeah.
In the because this is your mission statement for the next 5 years, especially with this massive majority, and some of these departments are being asked to cut the equivalent of like 20% in real terms. Angela Rayner, I think the Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood, they're all kicking off big time.
Yeah, but I see today that they've been told by Number 10, get real.
Yeah.
Get a grip.
Well, Starmer's ruthless about this sort of stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. You get a grip. We're not accommodating anybody. You're done for. I find it hard to look. I don't know really what the state of the country is. Certainly, we seem to have 10 billion to give to train drivers.
Yeah.
And members of the RMT who I see have got their hand out again. And I also see that next month, thanks to a bit of this, that, and the other, they could be on strike, various aspects of it, for about 8 days.
And ASLEF have already struck. The tube strikes next month as well.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
I wonder why that's happening,
Yeah, so they don't give a monkey stuff, these people. Me, I haven't got any hesitation at all. I'd be as cheerful as you like. I'd take them on and I'd start hiring fresh labour, right? Fresh labour at another price. And I'd say, actually, you like the migrants as well, do you? Well, they've got your job as well, right? Right. So we'd take the first
your
12.
Manifesto.
Well, I'd take the first 200 off the boat, and I'd say in there. After all, once again, here we go. Now, this is the education difficulties of being a train driver, right? Mind you, it's like that on the tubes, isn't it? They get 63 grand for that, don't they?
But what do they do? Can that not be automated at this point? I mean, we've got Elon Musk. We talked about this last week. Rocket ships here, there, and everywhere. Space cars and whatever. You can
you imagine
put a man on the sun.
Can you imagine those tossers at the RMT actually operating at Cape Canaveral on SpaceX or wherever it is?
Honestly, there'd be like kerosene all over Florida.
No, and not only that. Oh, mate, no, we can't deal with that rocket. No, one of our colleagues was sitting on it when it went off last time, and and so we're going to the Employment Tribunal for that, son. No, we'd like that rocket has gone up. Is only allowed to go up 17,000 feet. That's gone up 30,000 miles. I'm afraid that's against the rubric, and we want extra money. We're going to call it flight money, so that when we've done a job and the rocket actually takes off, we want extra money for the fact that it works. And you either give us that or we don't make the rocket. It's up to you, mate. I mean, honestly. No, the RMT and ASLEF and those other ones are throwbacks to like the 70s.
Yeah.
And the issue I have is that they have now accommodated them. So this Louise Haig, by the way, if she had one more brain cell, she'd be a keep left sign, right? If she, having accommodated them, they'll be knocking on the door every time. I wouldn't mind if a private employer says, I'm going to pay you, but you're going to have to do this, this, and this, which you previously didn't do before, which is called work, by the way. Then that's it. But what they say is, here's the money, and by the way, there are no conditions, and actually, we really like you. And the other thing is, we're going to send the bill to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer doesn't like you. But they're going to have to pay anyway.
Yeah, they got them over a barrel.
And so one of the problems about cross-questioning a prime minister like Starmer is that you need somebody at a lower level. There's no point intellectually dealing with it. It just bullshit you to death. Why should these people be worth this money? I don't want my money to go there. Why are you paying it? And his answer to that will be, if we don't pay it, then what happens after that is that we have disputes. Well, that's the whole bloody point of life. That's the whole point of having a trade union. Take the disputes, and by the way, treat them as badly as they treat the public, which is treating them as a battering ram.
Yeah.
So it's a nightmare. It's another thing which clearly our government doesn't care about. So they don't care about migrants. They don't care about union power. I guarantee to you, this kind of combination is going to lead to a massive political upheaval. actually during and when they start seeing the results coming in, they will start either having to change, which they won't want to do, or they're going to massively fail. I hope they fail.
Do you think Keir Starmer's in for the 5 years? Or, I mean, we talked about this previously, but given how it's going, is there a world where the next election it's Prime Minister Wes Streeting contesting that election?
Look, in the next election, he's gone. It's all over anyway. I'm not worried about that. Is he there for the next 5? That's an interesting thing. I suspect with his attitude that he probably could be, but it will be pretty bloody. I don't think he's got any natural political nous.
No, not
or
at
any
all.
Any empathy. There's only room for one in the lifeboat. That's him.
Yeah.
So I don't really rate him. Right.
Should we, well, we were going to talk a bit specifically about what's in that budget.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as I said, it's 10 days away.
Yeah.
So the headline in today's Times, they're talking about inheritance tax and stamp duty.
Yeah, no, inheritance tax for the BBC without any details. It's definitely going to change.
Yeah.
Their attitude is only 4% pay it, and therefore we don't care, and they're probably quite wealthy people. This is money that you've already paid tax on, you've invested on. Probably your house represents a big chunk of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they're doing, which will affect people, now this does affect people, is that the Tories gave a break to right, anybody who paid less than £250,000 under this Tory break didn't have to pay stamp duty. Anybody who was a first-time buyer,
Yep.
right, only had to pay stamp duty at more than 400.
Yeah.
Okay. They've reduced that 250 for any housing down to 125, and they've reduced the 400 down to 300.
It's unbelievable. This is supposed to be the party that's building more houses, getting young people on the housing ladder.
So that's going to cost up to 2,500 quid for somebody.
Yeah.
Now, so basically, the bank of mum and dad are reading that and thinking they're attacking me, really. But you can see that there's going to be a lot of this. Plus, and the other thing that I couldn't understand, they're quite firm on this. They're going to try and have an off-balance sheet debt which deals with building stuff, right? But it's still debt. Now, look, I've run companies that have had debt. Honestly, it's a nightmare because what happens in the end, and the reason that they can do this is that their interest rates are definitely coming down. Therefore, there will be some good news in all this as they announce. Right, the pressure on the Bank of England governor to cut by 0.5 in November, right, having gone down to 1.7.
1.7 inflation,
will be enormous. They come in, oi, mate, look, can we have a quick word, right? How long have you wanted to be working for Sainsbury's, right? There's a good job at Lidl's for you. There isn't a good job at the Bank of England as you get down to 0.5. Do what the Fed did. Right, the Fed cut it by 0.5.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So they could do that, and that would be very helpful to them in relation to how much they have to pay the people who are currently funding us, which are foreign wealth funds.
Yeah.
Right. So inheritance tax, but it's clearly going to be painful. I don't agree with this off-balance sheet thing. Anybody who's ever run a company knows what. Yeah. No, we're already 100% of GDP with our debt. We're adding this lot. I can't believe it's the right thing to do. Finally, go on.
Well, also, the capital gains tax and national insurance on employers as well. So it is going to be completely grisly. But do you want to dig into that anymore, or should we move on to...
Yeah, we just move on to... Finally, I think we should talk about that lady Connolly.
Yep.
So she gets 2.5 years having admitted racial incitement. Okay.
On Twitter.
If you read that thing, it's a stupid tweet. And the bottom half of it says, not only does it say, basically set fire to the hostels, but the bottom half says, by the way, throw the government ministers on the fire.
So and this was during the riots in the summer.
Well, it's on day one when obviously she was intensely upset.
Well, which is crucial, actually.
Intensely upset about the killings of three girls at the Taylor Swift dancing school in Merseyside. in Liverpool. So I am not a free speecher. I'm not Elon Musk. I don't believe in the purity of free speech. I agree with that old line. Free speech doesn't allow you to shout out fire in a crowded theatre.
Well, I mean, that still broadly aligns with the First Amendment U.S. interpretation of free speech, doesn't it?
It does. But I actually...
You go further than that.
I don't go that far.
Yeah.
I think this was wrong.
Yeah.
I think she's mad. But she was caught up in it all. And I think a suspended sentence would have been fine. Right. The judge, by the way, there's a very good piece of research about in Birmingham, right? So he's recorder of Birmingham. There's a very, very good piece of research. I'll try and find it here. But basically, somebody has looked at another one of his cases where he set fire, where a Muslim guy set fire to another couple of Muslim guys, right? Why? I'm not sure. He was charged with attempted murder, but they said that he had mental health issues and therefore he didn't go to jail.
What? Just a suspended sentence or something? What did he?
Yeah. And
she's doing.
So
2
this
years.
is the same. This is the same recorder.
Yeah.
However, if he wants preferment and be well thought of in his world, I presume he has to do this kind of thing, because to do the opposite, which is to do what I suggest, which is actually, I'm going to give you a suspended sentence because I don't believe that this would ever happen again, and I believe that you were caught up in X, Y, and Z. So I think she made a mistake in two ways. I don't think a defense counsel was of substantive heft. She needed to bring in somebody big time and pay them. She may not have had the money.
Couldn't have the money, would she?
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Two, had he done that, the judge would then have had to bow at the knee. He's a Casey, right? This is how these things work. For instance, I was involved in a case when editing The Sun, and I go and see this guy, hugely tall guy. I explained my case. I had that legal director with him. The whole time he was looking out the bloody window. I come away. Said to the bloody legal guy, I said, bloody rude tossery. I don't know. Said, don't bother with him, chuck him out, right? Anyway, he said, no, he's good. We then appear in the court a couple of weeks later. In front of the judge was about 20 books, all legal books, right? All marked off where, rhubarb versus rhubarb, 1784, Arthur versus James, 2018, right? This bloke stood up, no notes, nothing, not a bloody note, man, right? And he stood up and he said, as you all know from Arthur versus James, boom. And if could I address you towards rhubarb versus rhubarb? The judge, by the way, he had him eating out of his hand, right? Eating out of his hand. It was a fantastic performance, and it told me that if you're going to go to court, right, get yourself a decent. Anyway, we won the case.
Right.
Won the case.
It sounds like courtroom drama, like
yeah,
proper
but
TV
it was
stuff.
just like.
But there's a lesson in that.
There's
Get a good lawyer.
Right. And a good lawyer, I think, would have said, plead not guilty. Right.
Yeah.
Because had that lawyer known that 2.5 years was in the offing, what could there be anything worse than that? And also get a whole load of people talking about your mental health and also talk about the state of the nation, everything. Anyway, she gets 2.5 years. You could do the following. You could have attempted murder, not get 2.5. GBH, not 2.5. 30 or 40,000 pound of fraud on your company, not get 2.5.
But also, it's in the same, within days of the government releasing, thousands of prisoners. They're releasing load more prisoners on Tuesday. What is it? It doesn't look very good, does it? No. In comes someone who's sent a horrible tweet and out go, God knows how many who have committed violent acts. It's just, I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, I do know what they're thinking. They're thinking we are a liberal establishment, the judiciary, and on that basis, if some horrible people get involved in some riots, we've got to clamp down on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They think they can clamp down. Riots happen in countries every 10, 15 years, right? And they will happen again in 10 or 15 years. This is a one-off event. What I do notice is how quiet it has gone on the Taylor Swift killings. Not a word has come out about the why and the wherefore. You watch, if this emerges in the manner in which the kind of underground social media believe it will do, our country will be, and that judge will have that, and those judges should have this hanging around their neck. And honestly, I can now see a case for us following the American idea and actually let's start electing judges that actually support us.
Which is, I think, would be. Don't you think that would be a shame? Then, because then we're politicizing. Maybe we're going down that road inevitably, but politicizing.
Well,
the
this has been
judiciary.
politicized now, hasn't it?
I agree.
We have a prime minister, a Labour prime minister.
Yeah, fine, but look where it's got in America. You know, you end up prosecuting, going after bloody your political opponents, and you don't trust the judicial system at all. Oh, I can't imagine that working out well.
I don't trust the judicial system.
Don't trust them already. Fine.
Yeah, on this particular case.
On this, yeah.
And also lots of other cases that seem to come up where, somebody has killed somebody while drunk and they end up getting 3 years or something like that instead of getting 10 or 15
Oh, I agree.
years.
There's a lot of leniency.
And then there's a lot in there. But look, I don't know whether I should feel sorry for this lady, Connolly. I think that 2.5 years is excessive. If it had been me, Justice Kelvin, it would have been a suspended sentence. And I want to see these judges held to account. No good going up through the appeal system. The appeal system are all like this bloke. I call him, and all this bloody nonsense. I'd like to see him being I'd like to see him being actually cross-questioned by experienced journalists, right? And then let's try and get behind him, right? They have no right to be omnipotent. And the judicial system, in this case, I think, has made a massive error because it's not the only one. There was some lady got 15 months for some Facebook post. It was a lady of 52, 53. Both of them have got completely, clean backgrounds. These aren't people who go around holding up banks.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there we are.
That's
All
it.
Right. Should we wrap it up there? Right. Thanks very much for watching and listening, guys. We'll be back next week.